So from the Duality dungeon, only 2 of the 6 weapons are craftable, and that is going to be the Epicurean fusion rifle and the fixed odds machine gun. However, these require you to get 5 red border drops each from the encounters of this dungeon to unlock the pattern to craft these weapons. The problem is these weapons are incredibly rare, so I wanted to use some statistics and math in my experience anecdotally to break down what you can expect while farming these weapons, give you the best way to farm these weapons, as well as kind of give Bungie maybe some suggestions on how to make this grind a little bit more bearable. So let's talk about this. You should always start with fixed odds. Fixed odds drops from Kontrol. Now, while you're doing these farms, I would not recommend at all doing full dungeons. You're going to want to farm these specific encounters. You're going to want to have a person holding a checkpoint and doing that checkpoint over and over and over again until you and your team get all 5 of the fixed odds you need. Now, Kontrol's drop pool is kind of weird, so I want to talk about it. Kontrol has 2 drops, and it seems to work like this. The first drop has 5 things that can drop, and this is going to be Kontrol's specific loot: the helmet, the chest, the boots, as well as the fixed odds and the new purpose pulse rifle. Now, she also gets a second drop, and this second drop can be any of the 11 things from the entire dungeon. So this makes it so you can actually get things like a red border Epicurean if you're very lucky. But right now, let's talk about the fixed odds specifically. So you can actually get a fixed odds from either of these drops. The first one, because there's only 5 things, you have a 20% chance to get a fixed odds from this first loot drop. Her second one, you have a 1 in 11 chance, or about a 9% chance to get a fixed odds to drop. So I'm a chemist, but I looked up how to do these statistics because it's been so many years, and I think using the math on screen, that means it's about a 25.5% chance on any given Kontrol completion that you will get a fixed odds to drop from one of these 2 loot drops. Now, not every fixed odds is going to be a red border. Now, we don't know the exact drop rate, but using anecdotal evidence on Reddit and Twitter, as well as my own experience, and the fact that it's probably a round number, I'm going to guess that the drop chance for any given weapon to be a Deepsight resonant or red border weapon is either 20 or 15%, something around there. Maybe it's a little lower, but I think Bungie, while thinking through this, it just makes sense to me like, yeah, 20% is pretty good. So I'm going to be doing the math for if the drop rate is 20% or 15%. So if it's a 25.5% chance just to get a fixed odds, and let's just assume you have a 20% chance for any of those fixed odds to be a red bar, that means every run you have around a 5% chance to get a red border fixed odds. This means that you have to run about 20 runs on average to get a single one, or 100 runs in total. Now, if the red bar chance is 15%, it is actually closer to 132 runs in total. And obviously, if the Deepsight resonance chance is actually lower than that, it'll be even fewer. So in total, you're looking to do about 100 to 132 checkpoints of Kontrol. And just to compare this anecdotally to what I did, I actually needed 134. So that lines up perfectly somewhere in that time frame. Maybe I just had bad RNG. Maybe the drop rate is actually closer to 15% for a Deepsight resonant weapon. But you can expect to do 100 to 132 runs of Kontrol. Now, the nice thing is that Epicurean can actually come from Kontrol as well, only from that second drop pool though, because it's not actually in the loot pool for that first drop. That means that every time you kill Kontrol, you have a 1 in 11 chance, or right around 9%, to get an Epicurean drop from her. This is why I would recommend farming fixed odds first. So do fixed odds, and during this time, hopefully you'll get a couple Epicureans. Now, if the Deepsight resonance or red border rate is 20% of all of the Epicureans you get, that means you have about a 1.8% chance per run, or about 1 in 56 runs will drop a red border Epicurean. If the rate is actually around 15%, then it's actually 1 in about 74 runs. So statistically, while you are doing your 100 to 132 Kontrol runs for fixed odds, you should get 2-ish red border Epicureans as well. However, the best way to farm for Epicurean is actually going to be farming the Galron encounter. And so this is why I recommend doing the fixed odds first, getting all 5 of your Deepsight drops, and then once you have all 5 fixed odds, hopefully you've gotten a couple Epicureans to drop from Kontrol as well. And this is when you want to go directly to the Galron encounter and farm that. That's going to be the first encounter of this dungeon. Now, Galron only has 5 things in his loot pool. It's very simple. You kill him and you get 1 of 5 things. So that means it is a 20% chance to get an Epicurean every run. If if the Deepsight resonance chance is 20%, that means you'll need about 25 runs per red border Epicurean. If it's 15%, then it'll be closer to 33 runs. Now, using these statistics, that means if you only need 3 more Epicureans left, assuming you got the statistically probable 2 red border Epicureans from farming Kontrol, that means you will need to do about 75 Galron runs to get your remaining 3 red border Epicureans. Now, that's not so bad. We know the exact number of runs for these things now. Now let's do some math. Now for our team that was fully stacked, always equipped to farm as fast as possible, we were consistently one-phasing both Kontrol and Galron. I want to put some statistics on the table and really break down how much time this took. So keep in mind, this is going to be best case scenario. This is going to be assuming the least amount of runs and the highest Deepsight drop percentage chance. So we're just gonna say, yeah, when a weapon drops, it has a 20% chance to be a Deepsight resonant or red border weapon, just to make this math super simple. So whatever number we come up with here is going to be the best case scenario, the fastest team and the best drop rates. So Kontrol for our team took about 4 minutes and 15 seconds per run. If this sounds high, that is because we are accounting for everything. This is travel time. So not only is it doing the encounter, but it is switching characters, loading the checkpoint back up, boots on ground to boots on ground, because that is the real amount of time that it takes to get these 2 drops. So a Kontrol checkpoint farm takes about 4 minutes and 15 seconds per run with our team, with our loadout, consistently 2-belling Kontrol. With the Deepsight resonance being assumed to be about a 20% drop rate on every fixed odds, then you will need about 100 runs. That is 425 minutes about, or 7 hours, 10 minutes. Let's just call it 7.5 hours, just because, you know, you're gonna have to like get the team together, learn the strategies, that sort of thing. So 7.5 hours to craft a fixed odds and hopefully get a couple red border Epicureans as well. So like I said, statistically, we're just gonna assume that you got the 2 red border Epicureans that hopefully you get while farming fixed odds. So you will need to farm 3 more red border Epicureans from Galron, 75 runs like we mentioned before. Galron was taking us 2 minutes and 45 seconds for the entire encounter and switching characters and loading back in. Very fast. So for 75 of those runs, that'll be about 207 minutes, or around, let's just call it 3.5 hours. So the best case scenario, with the best assumed Deepsight resonance drop rate and a very cracked fire team farming as hard as you can for hours on end, your best case scenario is going to be about 11 hours of pure farming to get both 5 Deepsight resonance fixed odds and 5 Deepsight resonance Epicureans. And that is a lot. Now, for the average player, let's say maybe you miss some one phases, or you're not one phasing consistently, or you don't have as good of a team, or let's just say your RNG is bad, it's gonna be closer to like 16, 17, 20 hours of gameplay in order to get to just 10 Deepsight resonant red border weapons, which is pretty insane. I think that is a little bit unreasonable, especially for maybe the average player, the players that maybe don't put as much time into this sort of farming. So I just wanted to throw out a couple suggestions. Maybe Bungie could give you a way to guarantee 1 red border. We already can for the rest of the menagerie weapons per week using one of the helm upgrades in the Helm of Sorrow. So maybe go ahead and just add Epicurean and fixed odds to that as well, and you can just buy 1 red border a week. That would still take you 10 weeks of gameplay to be able to craft them both, which I think is still very reasonable. But I think the more likely fix is actually going to be drop protection. I think every time you get a fixed odds or an Epicurean and it's not a red border, it should be more likely that your next drop of those weapons are, and that would significantly reduce the time to farm here. So all of these numbers line up perfectly with my anecdotal evidence and all of the time that it took my entire clan to get both of these weapons. So I wanted to break it down, use some math. Let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comment section below. Do you plan on getting these weapons from the dungeon? Is this too grindy? What would make you, what is a reasonable time investment for these things? Let me know your thoughts down below. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like rating and to share it with your friends. If you were interested in watching either of the 2 videos on screen, you can click at their respective annotations to be taken to them. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will see you in my next video.